A new genetic-based tool is being considered for managing agricultural pests. This new approach, called gene drive, is at the beginning stages of research and is not yet being used. Now, let's take a look at how gene drive might be used to manage pests. Put simply, in the lab, a gene drive uses a new genetic-based tool that makes sure a selected trait is passed down from the gene drive-containing pest to most or all of its offspring, regardless of the trait carried by the other parent. In this and the next several slides, the blue-colored flies represent gene drive-containing pests, and the red-colored flies non-gene drive pests. In turn, the gene drive-containing offspring that mate with non-gene drive pests would also pass down the selected trait to their offspring. In this way, the trait spreads throughout a population, even if it is not beneficial to the species. For example, if a gene drive is connected to a trait for being male, that trait would spread so that eventually the population would have few to no females, and the population would decrease or die off completely. In another example, a gene drive might be connected to a trait that changes a pest so that it causes less damage to crops or livestock. Because a gene drive spreads itself through a population and might be designed to affect a variety of traits, it may offer ways to manage pests that are becoming increasingly difficult to manage using current methods. We will take a look at some of these difficulties in the coming slides. So why consider using gene drive to manage agricultural pests? Well, current practices such as pesticides, beneficial insects, and tilling are becoming less effective. For some pests, like pigweed pictured here, there are no longer any effective methods. Sometimes the ones that do exist are becoming less effective because of increasing resistance to pesticides. Some current practices can damage the environment. Pesticides may be toxic to animals and plants other than the targeted pest. Current practices can expose people to hazardous chemicals. Repeated exposure can pose health risks to agricultural and pest management workers. A buildup of residues in food can expose consumers to pesticides as well. Current practices can be too expensive. Some methods cost too much when compared to the market value of the crop. As with any current pest management methods, using gene drive technology does pose trade-offs and downsides. These need to be identified and thoroughly considered. As of now, there are a lot of unknowns about gene drive and its many possible effects. Before any decision to use this new technology can be made, potential negative outcomes need to be identified, evaluated, and compared to potential benefits. So, what are some of these potential downsides? Gene drive is so new that although it currently looks promising in the lab, just as with any other experimental technology, it may not work in the field. Gene drive organisms may affect local ecosystems, including non-target species like beneficial insects. Before using a gene drive, potential ecosystem outcomes need to be identified, and the potential benefits and risks of harms for local and global ecosystems need to be assessed. Gene drive applications could act as technological fixes, distracting us from establishing more sustainable and effective ways to tackle the root causes of pest problems. Gene drive is still at the beginning stages of research and is not yet being used. Scientists and policymakers are talking about gene drive. They need to hear your voice too. That is why we are asking you to answer some more questions.